She made this home for sale sign advertising her husband's infidelity and a little bit about her own bitterness there, too. The sign says, "Adulterers need not apply." Joining me, Elle Zober, the very woman who wrote that sign, and clinical psychologist Michelle Gollan. So, Elle, tell me about this bit of inspiration that led to that sign.
It's all true. Unfortunately, after 10 years, he did have an affair with a 22-year-old, and the marriage was over. And my mom had the idea for a less PG version of the sign. She's a lot more bitter and scorned than I am. And
wait, I'm going to stop you. Elle, stop. I'm dying to know. Give me a hint. Give me a hint. What was in that not PG? It was something about removing anatomy, I suspect.
Something like that.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Michelle can relate. Michelle likes that.
I do.
Go ahead.
I already like your mother.
Most people do. And I made it more PG, and I am a photographer, and I do all my own websites, and I do all my own stuff. And when we decided to sell for sale by owner, it was just assumed that I would make a sign. And I made this sign, and I approached him, and I said, "What do you think? Is it funny?" And he said, "It's hilarious. It'll totally sell the house. It'll get us the exposure we need. Go with it." So I ordered the signs with both our money and worked on a really nice website to try to advertise the house and how much we loved it. We're up against a lot of short sales in the neighborhood, which was the original intent. And here I am.
Michelle, you want to ring in?
I have to say, you're fabulous. And I also have to say, I do, because I also have to say, I give your husband, your ex-husband, credit as well. To me, you two doing this together.
Oh, they did together? Is that what she said?
That's what she, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Because, you know, I was, in knowing I was going to be here talking to you, the thing I wanted to say to you, Elle, was I hope that somebody hires you. I don't know if you are employed or you need a full-time job and now being a single mom, because your marketing and creativity, and clearly, even as a mother, through that, of course, you're bitter, hurt, angry, and you know this, Dr. Drew.
You know,
if we don't laugh, we're going to cry.
I'm actually not that bitter. I'm not. I was for a while, and it was really, really sad, and I cried a lot. And the more I cried, the more the children cried about just anything and little things. And that if I was angry, they were angry, you know, just at each other or at toys. And I realized if I faked it, which I won't talk about how long I've been faking things, but if I faked it, then they were happy. And I've realized that the more I faked it, the happier they were, the happier I was. And then I kind of turned around after a while, and I really wasn't that bitter and scorned. I'm not bitter and scorned. I wasn't bitter and scorned when I nailed the sign into the lawn. It was more like, oh, we got to get this done to get it on the market by the weekend. This happened Friday at 1 o'clock.
Let's take a couple calls. Kathy in Ohio, you wanted to say something, Kathy?
I am just so impressed with what Elle did. I wish I'd have thought of it. My ex cheated on me, and I ended up, before I moved out, my son and I moved out, I filled the satellite with pay-as-you-go porn for a month. I subscribed to piles of porn for him, and I got his car towed several times, and I had the utilities shut off and canceled all his credit cards and her cards, and I was just thinking with the hurt for so long. It takes a while to get past it because the pain is incredible.
Well, that's right.
And
I'm surprised, Elle, that you have as good an attitude as you do. I'm angry and, you know, sort of upset with your husband's behavior. Why aren't you?
You know, worse things happen every day. And, I mean, people are burying their children. We're at war. There are worse things happening to people while we're having this conversation than the fact that my husband hopped on a 22-year-old and had a good time. So it's the death of a family, and I take that super serious, super serious.
Right.
But you have to sit back and go, I still have my children. They still have a father.
But if you
can make this work differently.
Well, I understand that. But if you can be that forgiving, how about trying to reconcile?
He didn't want to.
Ooh, that hurts.
He didn't want to. Yeah, it did.
Of course.
And she laughs about it, Michelle. That's inappropriate laughter.
You know what? I have to say, because you, Elle, are displaying the things that really moms over, you know, so many centuries have done. Sometimes you just have to get along, and you act as if.
Yeah.
And because you have to, because you are absolutely right, Elle, that we set the tone if the kids are living with us. We set the tone.
Yeah.
And what you're missing is you were pissed. You were angry. You were bitter. Every right. So I'm sure you cried your eyes out. And that's why your mom had the other sign ready to go, because she was protecting you. And
it's not bitter. It's the pain of like thinking about how that transpired with me and the kids in the background. Like, how could you, knowing you were going to come home to us?
Yes.
How did you get out of the car?
Listen,
how did you knock on the door?
How did you do that to your family? How do you do that to
Yeah.
your kids? How do you destroy a family like that? But let me take some calls. LaQuee or LaKey, is that in Oklahoma?
Yes, it's LaQuee.
LaQuee.
And yes, I had the pleasure of meeting you at the University of Oklahoma a couple of years ago.
Oh, for goodness sakes. Nice to see you again.
Yes. Well, my story I've never been married, but I was in a relationship with the same person for 15 years. Mm-hmm. And there did come a time at the end of the relationship where he cheated. And, you know, it was pretty devastating for me. You know, a lot of hurt. I tried to reconcile the situation, the relationship, and, you know, things just didn't quite work out. So, you know, as hard as it was, I did have to let go. And while I understand all the pain and the bitterness, and trust me, I did have some negative thoughts and things that I could have done to kind of get back at it. But in order for me to be healthy and move on, it was something that I just had to pretty much just kind of let go of.
Well, that sounds healthy. I mean, but it was not a marriage and there was not family, and you kind of had to get going. And people, you know, a statement I always make all the time is to retain resentment, and you'll appreciate this, Michelle, to be resentful all the time is like you taking a poison and expecting it to kill somebody else. So, you know, I'm not saying harbor resentment. I'm just saying I don't think, Elle, you should be giving your husband quite so much of a pass. I'm just saying you're delightful, you're giggly, you're wonderful. You're being kind to the guy that your mother wants to disconnect him from some of his parts. And I don't blame her.
That way if it was my daughter.
Yeah, right. And you don't want your daughters to be treated like this, Elle, either. So make sure. Right. So let's not give too many passes. But it was a very creative way. I mean, after all, you end up on national television just from coming up with a creating strategy.
Thank you. Brilliant.
A brilliant creative strategy, yes. And thank you for joining.